Good morning, everybody. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court video teleconference meeting for September the 23rd, 2022. We're going to start the session off with a pledge by Audrey, a third grader at secondary school. Would everyone please stand for the pledge?
Hi, my name's Audrey. I go to Second Street School and I'm in third grade. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Audrey.
We were all over the place. I was starting giggling. I was
It's like a drummer on speed. Can't get all the words in there without saying.
So from here on, Court,
This whole meeting's gonna go fast like that.
we're going to do the best we can to get the volume up. We'll probably just let them do the pledge, and that would be a little bit better.
We were everywhere, Judge.
Yeah, I know it.
Andrew knew it was coming.
No offense, but
That was awesome.
Leave it to the professionals on the video.
yes, exactly. All right. The next item on the agenda is the Simon House funding. We have some special guests here. John, if you would introduce who you've got here, and we'll let you start off.
Thank you, thank you. I'd like to introduce, you probably have not met, Mark Johnson is our interim executive director.
Good morning.
He's with us for at least a year. You know Janet Gates, and I don't know if you know Shelley Hearn. She is remarkably great with the Frankfurt Police Department.
Go ahead.
Okay, shall I just stand here? That works for me. I
Unless
need
you
to
want to
go
sit, whatever.
up in the balcony, wherever you want to put me.
We're just glad you're here.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. I think most of you are very familiar with the Simon House, and you have no idea how much we appreciate what you have done for us over the past 2 years. As we have moved into the building, you've rehabbed it with the city, and most of you, well, I don't know, how many of you have been in the building and seen it? I know 3 or 4 of you have, and we've really done a remarkable job doing it. The reason we're here today, well, there's several reasons. One is to thank you. The big reason is we need to open the 24-hour shelter. We've never had one. Tommy and I have talked about this for years, and Janet and others, and we know that it's a need. The homeless issue in this community, city and county, it's a big issue. Hidden to a lot of people, but very present if you look around. We are currently operating a day center from 8:30 to 4:30, 7 days a week. And that has been very successful with sheltering people from the weather. And we know, and today's a good indicator that weather's changing and it's going to get even cooler. And we're going to need something at night. The problem that we need your help with is funding for staff. We cannot fund the staffing alone for the downstairs 24-hour shelter. In many communities, cities and counties partner and do this type of work. Here, we're more than willing to do it, or any agency that can do this will do the work. We just need help with funding for staffing. I've costed it out, and it's kind of not a small number, but at the top level, I'm estimating $1,000 a day to fully staff a 24-hour shelter with 2 staff members on 3 shifts every day of the year. Now, we know right now that the job market is somewhat scary. People are having trouble finding employees. So when I costed it out at $20 an hour, which I do not think we will have to pay, but we may. I also did cost figures for $15 an hour. We currently, with the day center, are staffing with 2 of our own staff. Help me out, Mark.
Yes.
We have an AmeriCorps worker who helps some. We have 2 or 3 with the Career Center.
3 currently, yes.
And so we're able to do it, but it's a struggle just on 8 hours a day. If you have any questions, pop in at any point, because this presentation is not terribly organized. So, Mark, would you like to reinforce anything that I've just said?
Sure.
We're going to do this together.
Yeah. When we first opened the day center, we were trying to look at 11 p.m.,
but because of staffing, and when we have the Kentucky Career Center folk, that's only 480 hours, and then they're gone if we're not able to hire them. So because of staffing, we've had to decrease the hours, so currently we're 8:30 to 4:30 because we do not have the staffing. The building is great, we're meeting a wonderful need, and as John said, it's going to take the whole city and county to provide services for staffing. The building is wonderful, we need the building, and the money that we're paying, or will be paying eventually for the building, is something that could be used towards staffing and other things. That's $175,000, I believe, that we have to pay in 2024 for the building. Because this is a city and county issue, we think that it should be something that should be given to us, in my opinion, because it is a need. And if we don't have that building, all these individuals are going to be in the beautiful parks that you're building and doing all those wonderful needs out there. These individuals need some place to go. And I think at the Simon House, we're providing a unique need for the community, along with some of our other partners, but we are really addressing the need of the unhoused, of the individuals that are homeless, and we're also trying to prevent individuals from becoming homeless. We are unique because we offer so many services, and I can tell you all the things that we do at Simon House. Many of you know the things that we do, but some of the other places around in other counties do not offer the services that we offer, from showers and feeding and case management and HIV testing and COVID testing, and all of these things that we offer at Simon House are not found anyplace else. Just so you know that from July of last year, 21, to June of this year, we reached over 501 unique individuals in our county. 484 of those individuals were from Franklin County. So they're not from Lexington or Louisville or any place else. So maybe 17 of those individuals were outside. So 484 individuals in that year are Franklin County residents. You know, and we've been hearing that they've been bused in and shipped in and all kinds of things from other places. But based on our statistics and things that we need for our grants, this is the information that we have. So 484 of the 501 or so that we've seen have been Franklin County residents. And that tends to increase over time, and we get lots of phone calls, and we're addressing many needs. We have a 24/7 hotline, and if you want to know other services that we offer, I'd be happy to rattle those off. But in a nutshell, we provide a pretty unique service, and I think we're a model for Kentucky.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
John, a couple questions, and
Sure.
I know the court's going to have a couple of questions for you too. On average, how many people are you day sitting or staying with you?
Mark will need
The
to
day
address that.
center, we in July we saw 73 unique individuals, but they've come repeatedly. So unique individuals were 73 in just July. I haven't done August yet. We started in April, and we started with 34. It's increased to 73. Word of mouth. We haven't really advertised or anything like that, and that's just the day center that we have.
Do you feed the people when they're there?
We have
every
lunch.
day?
We have breakfast,
lunch,
lunch, and then we provide a sack lunch for them to take with them. So 3 meals a day. They get to sleep, they get to shower. We have clothes, counseling services. They can apply for jobs. We have Kentucky Career Center that comes in once a week. We have mental health. We have nursing services that will be beginning in the next week or so. So there's lots of things that we offer.
I want to touch on that. We have just hired a part-time nurse who's going to start with us, which is fabulous. These are all grant-funded things. These are not things we're asking for your help with. The
Right.
food we get through grants and gifts from churches and various agencies in the neighborhood. Go ahead.
Speaking of grants, and one of you, you've got a plethora of knowledgeable people there.
Yes, I'm glad.
So are there grants for hiring people?
No. That's one of the, I'll cut you off right there. No. When we get a grant, for example, the Emergency Solutions grants, which are passed through from HUD, through Kentucky Housing, very little of that covers, it will never cover a full-time position. Most of the grants are for services, but not people. And that's critical. And I want to go back to my $1,000 a day thing. That we're not asking Fiscal Court for that, because we're wanting to partner with the city. And like Mark and I've talked, we have the Kentucky Career Center, which provides staffing to us. Not enough to staff it full-time, and those have an expiration date where we'd like to hire them on full-time if they have worked out for us. So we're not asking you to fully fund that staffing issue, no. In partnership with the city, in partnership with Kentucky Career Center, and some of our staff That is the goal.
How much are you asking for the city? What is the breakdown here?
There hasn't been a dollar amount discussed.
Okay.
I talked to the city commission, was that a week ago, Monday, last week? Lost track. And I'm presenting the same numbers to you that I presented to them. And I thought when we move further into this, the three groups, you, the city, and we, can sit down and say, this is where we are, this is what we need. What I'm talking about is the maximum.
All right, questions? Squire
Yes,
Hall?
sir.
Thank you, Jay. So just, I'm trying to figure this out. So right now, you're 8 hours a day.
Correct.
So, and how many people does that hold total? The
The,
Simon House?
the overnight shelter, when we're fully functional 24 hours a day, is 16 people, which once we're fully functioning with bad weather, will probably not be enough, but we don't even have one now. During the day, we have people who sleep in the shelter, but I think, what is it,
86.
86 people is what the fire marshal has certified us for a day center. That's a lot of people. I don't know where we put them all, but that's what he certified us for.
So, and you can only do 16 overnights?
Overnight, yes. And that's because of code. We don't have a fire suppression system, and I'm told, I don't understand code. I guess Tommy does, or you're the only one who understands this stuff, that if we had fire suppression, we could go to 32, but then we would be space issued. Right now, the 16 beds, those who have seen it, it works very, very well. To go to 32, we would have to reposition and probably go to bunk beds, and I don't know. We don't have the infrastructure to put 32 beds in right now.
So then let's say you're able to go 24/7. How long can the people stay there then? You know, you all
I'll
talked
let
about
Mark
that
respond to
with the
that.
16 people.
We're looking at 3 months as average with case management, and as long as they're doing what they need to do to be responsible and achieve a goal, our ultimate goal would be housing and getting housing vouchers, and that in itself is a unique problem, because right now we're helping people and they're getting housing vouchers, but then there's not landlords that will, you know, rent to them because of past criminal history or because of evictions and that kind of thing. So we're struggling there, but we still work with them, and as long as they're progressing, they can stay longer than 3 months, but we're putting 3 months as an average right now.
I'd like to say something about that. We deal with a population that most of us don't deal with on a regular basis. I'm told by one of our shelter managers that probably 90% of the people who come in that door are actively using or drinking. That's a huge issue. We're not addressing that one in this discussion, except to say that we do offer services. We have referrals. We're going to have a nurse. We're right next to the health department with needle exchange up the top of the hill. And in terms of the housing, it is a problem when we have people who have felonies out there or they've been behind on their rent, to find landlords who will work with them, and we're working on that. That's another one, way down the road. We've got to look at some level of housing to get people out of shelters into sustainable living quarters.
Right, and I think because we have so many individuals that are using substances and have mental health issues, you know, the COVID monies are, not the COVID money, what's it called?
Opioid.
The opioid monies are coming down, and because of the unique need that we have, I think we might be able to qualify for some of that, and we'd be nice to be considered to receive some of those monies.
We are certified Narcan, and we have had Narcan used in our facility. We are also certified COVID and HIV testing facility. This is very unusual for most shelters to be functioning at this level.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Mark, we've been waiting patiently for these opioid monies. I hope that you would be able to get some of those monies. I would think it would be very appropriate. But way back, we heard that it was going to be in May. It just keeps extending.
Did they give a year with the May, or did they just say May?
It's a federal
No,
government
we were
job.
at a conference actually in the spring, and several of the presenters were saying it looks like the monies are going to be coming in around May or early June, and they're still coming.
They're still
out there.
coming.
They're out there, so whatever. Hopefully you'll get it. Tom?
Judge, I would like to say, and this is not why I came here today, but the Simon House has turned into a one-stop shop, which is what we needed. The case management part of that, is probably the most critical issue for us to move forward in this, because if we can't help with the cases or resolve the cases or come to some type of fruition for them, then again, as he said, we see the same individuals over and over again. As we're moving into wintertime, obviously, you all know, my phone will start to ring 11:30 to 5:30 in the morning, you know, and with individuals that are out on the street when it's below 32 degrees or something like that. So I think it's imperative that we consider at least to get this, part of this staffing up and running where we can offer something emergency-wise
Yeah.
at least 24/7.
And we're doing the emergency phone now. And Mark, you can address, we don't get a lot of calls, but boy, it's an emergency when we get one, and that's 24 hours a day.
Well, good, I'm gonna roll my phone over to y'all's then.
Please don't, it's coming to me right now. Until we open 24/7, it's coming all to me. I've been doing that since-
But those services, they've become a one-stop shop, and that's essentially what this county has needed. You know, the better the service you provide, the better the business you get. You can ask Michael, you know? So, it's not a bad thing. It's something that is the norm in this society, kinda. Our homeless numbers are not outside of the federal norms. And I'm glad you addressed that about people being shipped in here and all of those things. When you look at our numbers, they run right along the federal guideline numbers that they've shown.
And they're probably low, they're probably higher than some of those numbers. Because when we do the K counties here, which is the homeless count, that's always way below what the actual
It is,
count is.
it is, absolutely.
It's not an accurate number.
No, it is not. But like I say, I'll have to stand up and, you know, say, hey, we need to consider this moving into the winter time to try to get something going to work with the city.
Okay, Squire Tracy?
Thank you. Obviously, the Simon House is a huge advocate for the CARES Coalition.
Yes,
Where are we in that? Because I know that we've been approached in the past that the CARES Coalition was going to lead the charge in grants and so forth.
we are involved. And I'll let Janet Gates talk about that. And Shelley, if you want to dive in, because you guys have been directly involved.
So
And Mark on that.
the CARES Coalition, as you are aware from the news, in the newspaper and otherwise, they have city hired a contractor to apply for a 501c3. That is to that point where we have been assured by September 30th, which is the end of their contract, that 501c3 application will have been submitted. We worked hard on the bylaws and got those in. So what's going to happen with that, why we're really excited, is that, as Tommy said, Simon House has become that one-stop shop. Well, the CARES Coalition is so important for our community because it engages all the social service agencies. We, for years, served as that 24-hour emergency shelter. We did not have 24-hour coverage because we were not low barrier. We were always, Franklin County Women and Family Shelter has always been a sober living environment where we help people who come to us with substance use to get assistance, but unless they're willing to work on things, they couldn't stay with us long term. We would have to find another shelter for them to go to. As it is, we need both models in our community. We're continuum of care. CARES Coalition, as we see it, and as the goal is for that, is that all these agencies will come together, and we were talking about grants and what kind of funding for staffing. There is money out there for that, but no small agency alone is big enough in our community to apply for that funding. So that's the goal, is to get this CARES Coalition up and running, become an official 501c3, so we can together show the demographics that we're serving, whether it be the opioid problem, which we have recovery housing now, not just opioid, but substance use. So we can go together and have the numbers and to apply for those larger grants that we would, whoever's applying for those grants, if it's both of our agencies, then we would receive that funding. If we bring in the health department or whoever else, they would also. So it's just a really exciting time for us, but it's going to take building that. So what I'm here today to do is to support Simon House in this effort and thank them for stepping up, because our board decided not to take that funding that mandates the low barrier shelters now across our state and across the nation. So we work together. When people come to them and they're ready to work on their issues, they can come to us as a longer term transitional housing, whether it's recovery or other reasons for being homeless. So I think that's where we are with CARES Coalition. We should know by October whether, once that 501c3 But the thing is, yeah, right. The thing that we have to understand, and it's hard to understand that, is this funding is really needed now, because this is a community issue. This is a county issue, a city issue. This is not just Simon House's issue. It's not just our issue. These are our citizens that are homeless, and they deserve services, so they deserve 24 hours.
I want to follow up real quickly before I forget. 3 things that Janet addressed. One is we're low barrier. You may not know what low barrier means. Low barrier means anybody can come in that door. They cannot use on the property. They cannot use drugs. They cannot drink. They can come in high. There are no restrictions for services. They can come in where they are. Now, low barrier doesn't mean no rules. Once they're inside that building, there are rules they have to abide by. But it's a low barrier shelter, which is a huge issue for a lot of shelters because they don't have low barrier. That's kind of unusual. The second thing is that Janet talked about, without using the word, with the CARES Coalition and where we're moving, one of the big things that we have accomplished is agencies are not competing anymore.
That's correct, yeah.
We each have our own distinct direction. We're not overlapping. We refer back and forth. We're working together as a unit. And the last thing, which I think, I was going to close with this, but I think it fits in well here, is that investing in helping people at this point in their lives, there have been research studies done, show that later down the road, we're not incarcerating them, which costs more than to put them in a shelter. Your turn.
I was going to say, I mean, that's part of, so my name is Shelley. I am working for the Frankfort Police Department, and my job basically is to support our community, reduce recidivism calls, deal with individuals where they are, basically, if they're involved with law enforcement. And what we're seeing is astronomical rates too with our homeless population, and our officers are trying to respond and ensure the health and safety and welfare of these individuals in a very quick manner, but they're calling me to kind of support and try to figure out how to help them. I get calls out of the, probably, I have my numbers here too. I had out of 229 cases, at least 74 of my last contacts were dealing with our homeless population, and out of at least 5 of those were only transient individuals. So what I'm dealing with is our Frankfort community individuals, and our officers basically really aren't equipped to, you know, unfold the underlying causes of our homeless, and so they're calling me, so then I'm immediately calling them. And when there's no other resources or support, then it makes it very difficult, and our officers are continually dealing with calls repeatedly, so it's making it just a vicious cycle. So we are really asking for the support for the Simon House as
Well, I have a question. Now, am I allowed to ask questions too? Yeah. Here's my question. Are you hearing similar stories from the sheriff's office? Because you're with the city police.
I was talking to the judge not too long ago about, I do get calls from the county. I do get calls from the sheriff's office. I get calls from EMS asking about how to handle situations. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. First of all, I'm a city employee, so I don't know what to tell you. I would love for the county to consider getting a position like mine as well eventually.
Right.
But they also are dealing with these similar situations.
And what unfolds now, are we through?
Go ahead. And Tommy's calling me, so I mean, I'm getting calls.
Yeah, what
from him.
unfolds now, worst case scenario, they call, I get an individual who's out on the street and their law enforcement's looking for something to do with them. Right now, my options are Lexington or Louisville, all right?
And I've had to drop people.
And a lot of individuals are very reluctant to leave their hometown
Yes.
for the simple fact that maybe they've got a pet with them, maybe they've got little children, maybe it's a different family situation that we're not aware of. You know, homeless is a multi-layered thing, and it's very difficult to get to the core root of the cause. And sometimes, you know, the hard decision on my part is, I've done everything I can do. I don't know what else to tell you. They're just going to have to make it through the night until we can get to tomorrow, and I can get them up to the Simon House.
Well, let me say this, John, Mark, Janet, Shelley, thank you for being here, and thank you for your presentation. And we, obviously, homelessness doesn't have boundaries, city or county.
No.
They're people. And that's what we must be made aware of, that these are people that have needs. What I ask of you, John, if you would, I don't know what's happening with the city. You said you all are working with the city. If you would, as the next step, I think in a logical process here, what you're not asking for, you're presenting today,
Right.
that we meet together as a community and come together and see what the needs are and and what we from the city and the county side and you all from your side can all.
I will set that meeting up.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay, I'll talk to Blair and we'll get that moving.
Yeah.
Just a couple things I'd like to say real quickly, if I may. I don't know, according to the agenda, we have 3 hours for this part of the discussion.
That agenda has been thrown away. Obsolete now.
Obsolete. Okay, Simon House has 3 legs on its stool. We've got the shelter on Campbell Street, which most of you know about because it's very historic since the 80s for women with children and women who are pregnant. We're not talking about that in this discussion. We have our community programs, which is to keep people from becoming homeless. They're on the cusp of homelessness. We're not talking about that program. What we're talking about today is the 24-hour shelter downstairs, which is the 3rd leg on that stool, even though they all work together.
Okay.
We're not asking for the moon. We're going to help out. And if Simon House doesn't do this work, that's okay, but somebody needs to. The least of these in our community are really hurting. And I've worked the shelter several times and talked to these folks, and I've never walked in their shoes, and I can't even walk next to them and understand what they're telling me. In terms of the outsiders, if somebody comes in that door and needs help, doesn't matter where they're from if they're in crisis. What we don't do is go into the 3-month long-term. We get them immediate case management, get them what they need to get through the situation they're dealing with, and then move on. So we're not doing long-term assistance with the out-of-staters. I'll tell you one story. I was working the shelter, and this woman was just really, really challenged, emotionally, physically. She was exhausted. She was from Indiana. And she'd met this new fabulous boyfriend online from Frankfurt. And so she packed all of her stuff in her car and drove to Frankfurt and was going to have a new life. Well, she was delivered to us at the beginning of the day by the police because he, when he drank, was abusive. She knew none of this. We helped her for 2 days, 3 days maybe, and got her back to Indiana. But we could not leave her on the street.
Thank you. Squire Tracy, I think you had your hand up.
You've referenced low barriers several times. Can you explain exactly what that means and what's available to you by going or being?
Well, low barrier is a federal definition, and I'll let Mark address
And pretty
that.
much low barrier is, as John mentioned before, we can take anybody in, that may be drunk or high, as long as they're not violent. They come in, they rest, they eat, do all those kinds of things, and then we try to work with them with case management best that we can. But pretty much low barrier is saying that, we do have rules, but we do take any and everybody in. We can't deny them services because they are drunk.
Does that allow you to apply for more federal grant money?
That's the only way to get this.
So that's the only way
That's
to
the
get it.
only way to get that kind of money, but not for staffing.
Right, so in regards to like overnight stays and so forth, and just stays in general, how do you keep someone that's recovering from someone that you're not asking if they're
That's a
using?
good question.
That's why we turned the funds away, because we knew that there's over 84% of the people just in a 5-year period had substance use as their issue, and we had people who were really working on issues, and when we had someone come in who was, using, then, so that's why we need both. We need both streams of funding to help us have both services, so the people who are there, they may not be ready yet. The statistic shows it takes 7 times in rehab and before someone may succeed and be sober for the rest of their lives. And that's even a number that's challenged often. So but that's why because we didn't have 24/7, we had security cameras all the time, for those overnight, but we didn't have that staffing, and plus our mission wasn't we want it to be that next step in long term. So an agency like this that can receive that funding, it's called Housing First Low Barrier, and that funding started in about 2008, federal level and started coming through where it wasn't mandated with this funding stream until 2019.
Right.
In 2019 funding, that's when every shelter had to assume a model that was low barrier.
Right. And that's when the case management kicks in, you know, working with wonderful partners, being able to make referrals to other agencies for recovery. And that's what our case managers do is, in addition to working with our clients, we're also making connections in the community and outside our community, so we are able to send individuals who are ready to go to treatment that can't come to other facilities.
And as someone who has been contacted by local law enforcement and told, I see that you said 484 were Frankfurt residents. As someone who has spoken to them and been made aware of that there are people being dropped off in our community, what type of questions are you all asking these individuals to find out where exactly they're from?
We have an initial process, you know, everybody has to go through our intake, thank you, and assessment. So we find out where they're from, what they're doing, their last residence and all that. So initially when they come in, everybody goes through an intake. So that's where we're getting this information from. We don't wait a week or 2 weeks to ask that. As soon as they come in, we do that. And we also screen individuals, you know, we scan them to make sure they don't have weapons. We also inspect or look at their bags or have them to remove everything from a bag they may have so they don't have drugs, because we're not able to do that.
So is there any documentation provided by them, or could there be, that shows that follows up, or would they not have?
Come to us without
Right.
documentation, so we're
Okay.
helping them get
Just
IDs
asking.
and
Yes.
background checks or whatever.
So basically, it's an honor system.
Yeah.
I'm from
And I will
Frankfurt.
say,
I'm
from my
Frankfurt.
standpoint, the ones that I have dealt with our law enforcement
Right.
have all been mostly
Right, right.
residents. So I don't know where that's going.
Well, again, like you said, you hear that, but again, I mean, I've been personally contacted and told that people are getting bussed in. So
Well,
it's just
I
not
mean,
something we're pulling out.
That's
May
it.
I
Right,
address
right.
that just for a
Yeah,
moment?
absolutely.
So we over the years, when we were 24-hour emergency shelter, people do come to Kentucky. Other places in our nation are a lot more extreme than what we are, with the cost of living and everything. So people do come, and we have had people move here from Detroit and from other states because they decided they wanted to make Kentucky their home, and then they fell on hard times, wasn't able to make it, and then they needed our services. So what are we doing there as a city or in a state? Are we saying, all right, close our borders and people can't come here? We want people who come, we want to help them be successful if they come here.
Right.
You know, so of course, you got probably very valid stories of people
Yes.
who came, but it is a small percentage overall of the numbers, and I think that's what we have to keep in mind. If someone comes off the street and they say they're from Georgia, you know, are we going to say, no, because you're hurting or you're desperate, you're hungry, we're not going to feed you? I don't think that's what we want to be as a community. But sure, I mean, 100%, we do have people, families and individuals who do move to Kentucky from other states for whatever
Okay.
reason, but it's a very small percentage.
Squire Muller?
I just wanted to say it's a very small percent, and the 17 that we saw were from counties, not necessarily other states. They were in Lexington, Anderson County, Woodford County, and places like that. They weren't from Georgia or Detroit or any places like that.
Okay. Squire Muller?
So I'm a little excited about the CARES Coalition because I think it's nice that we're not overlapping services. So my quick question is, and I know we can talk about this at a later time, are you all addressing and looking at mental health long-term
Oh, yes.
and
Yes.
transitional housing? Because it seems to me like that's the big need. If you get somebody back up on their feet,
We're looking-
where to go to next?
We're looking at writing another grant right now. And you know, grant funding is not consistent over a long time. But we're writing another grant now for a mental health professional. We have trained therapists, we refer to, but who will be on staff with the nurse working together dealing with this. One thing that bothers me, and we have no control over this, is we can only present services to our clients. We cannot require them to avail themselves of them.
And that's part of the low barrier model.
That's, yeah, and that's an issue. We can't, they do not have to do something
Right.
to help themselves in order for us to help them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
One last thing on the funding. This is just, what we're talking about right now is getting the shelter open for the winter. But as of December 31st, we've got to have consistent and continual funding. It can't end on December 31st. What we're looking at is a long-term
I
commitment.
understand. And the most important piece here to me in what you said is, one, these are human beings with needs. And two, what I appreciate what you're doing from Shelley to all of you is a comprehensive approach, as Michael said.
I'm trying to.
Mental health, drug addiction, everything from A to Z is, you're offering that, and I think that's a fantastic approach. So, John, once again, the next step should be that you get us all together.
I will.
And we start narrowing down and focusing in on what the needs are and how we can help, okay?
Will 6 o'clock tomorrow morning work for you?
Tamber will be there for me. All right, thank you all.
Thank you,
God
guys.
bless you. Thank you.
Longer than we expected, but really appreciate good questions.
Appreciate
Thank
all the
you.
support.
Thank you all.
Take care. Have a
Okay.
good meeting.
All right, thank you. The next item, Robert Hewitt, are you on?
Thinking I could walk out too.
Robert Hewitt, I know Robert's been out. Andrew, is Robert on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Robert, thank you for being here. Robert is on vacation, but he said that he would be on, and thank you, Robert. I hope you're having a nice vacation, and sorry to take you away. Looks like you're in a nice place. This is a discussion about the residential recovery facilities, and Robert, I know you've had many meetings with Mr. Hart, and can you give us an update?
Yes, sir. So I've met with Mr. Hart several more times since the last fiscal court meeting. We have discussed, recap the discussions of the court as it relates to setbacks and some other proposals. So in your packet today, you had received information on some other facilities throughout the state as relates to their location, what they do, how many participants or occupants they have, as well as whether or not that community has any sort of land use regulations. And the main reason for that is, once again, is for the comparison of what happens in other communities, but I think more specifically it's to show its proximity to residential structures and road infrastructure and things of that nature. So in all those examples, they had either reuse, such as the high school repurposed it. You'll see that's a 99-bed facility for males in one community. There's another community in which they built a brand new commercial type structure, and so these are all, I guess, what you refer to as an inpatient facility where they actually stay there overnight and receive services from the staff. So, aside from that information, I'm prepared to do whatever the wish of the court is and forward that on to the planning commission so that it can come back to you from their recommendation. And if the court chooses to amend the existing ordinance, then I'm happy to pursue that to whatever degree the court decides.
Squire Sebastian, you asked for this to be on. Do you have a recommendation, Squire Sebastian?
No, what we were going to do is, and I think at the last, we talked about this in June a couple of times. We've talked about it multiple times since then. And there were a number of topics that were discussed, not just proximity, although that was one of the key issues that was noted by the Board of Zoning Adjustments in the 2 meetings that they had, was proximity of the facility to an adjacent property owner. Here we've talked about density within the residential facility. We've talked about the infrastructure impact, whether that be water, waste, through sewer and septic. Certainly if it's out in the county, based on whether it's in a neighborhood where there's a package plant. We understand the nature of what's going on with Farmdale Sanitation, and we also know Kentucky American Water runs some of those in another portion of the county. We've talked about traffic impact. We've talked about the larger issue of putting for-profit businesses in a residential setting, which they were never designed for. They were designed for homes. We've talked about putting them in a single-family dwelling, which was not, which may have 3 bedrooms and 1 bath, and then that being converted to a business use, that type of property. We've talked about the insurance impact. We've talked about property values. We've talked about staffing requirements. you know, we've talked about also capping the number, and I'm looking to my brethren here on the court to see if there are other items that perhaps I've missed in trying to recapitulate what we've talked about over a variety of meetings for months now. So I just don't want to miss something, because one of our initial charges was the proximity, because that's what came out of the BZA. But as a group, we've talked about a variety of other things, so.
Robert, with your discussions with Mr. Hart, have you all, and I'm sure you have, addressed what Squire Sebastian just talked about, or at least most of them, most of the items or areas? Are you at a point where you're not ready to make a recommendation, you're just gonna ask the court for a recommendation? Is that where you are after your discussions?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Just because based on the additional research that's been done, it appears that these facilities occur in a variety of locations, whether it be in a commercial district adjacent to a residential, or in a residential district adjacent to residential structures. So really, this research has not provided basically a set of standards throughout the Commonwealth in which these facilities operate. So I am looking for direction from the court to proceed on. And if I could address some of the other issues that have been discussed with the fiscal court over the last several months, but as it relates to density or occupancy of the structure itself and infrastructure, much of the other regulatory agencies would dictate density based on their capacity to serve that facility. So for instance, if there's a 2,000 square foot house and someone proposes, 40 people in it, well, the health department would do an assessment of the septic system and say, no, you can't have more than 6. Or the Department of Housing, Building, and Construction says, well, anything over 16 occupants requires a sprinkler system, and then the water district can only serve with a 4-inch line. So therefore, that density would not be permitted. So there are other checks and balances in place throughout other regulatory agencies that would limit or provide for a certain occupancy based on their ability to serve the facility. So whether it be just one entity, say it's just the health department with the septic system, they would have the authority to say, no, you can only have X number of people. Whereas, the other, say the water district might say, yeah, we're fine, we can serve it. But that agency that says, no, you cannot exceed this amount would dictate that number, because the building code occupant load is based on those factors, as well as the number of occupants proposed proportional to the square footage per person per structure. So, there's at least 5 agencies that would have a hand in determining location, density, use, things of that nature. So once again, just guidance from the court would be appreciated, and I can forward that on to a public hearing before the Planning Commission, get public input from that, hear what the community has to say, and then bring it back to court.
All right, let's go with Squire Sebastian and Squire Tracy.
Okay, I just had a question for our planning director, because did you just say that if a property is on a 4-inch water line, it cannot be sprinkled? That, I just want to make sure I heard that right.
It's not likely that it could be.
Well, but there's one that's been approved
It's
in the
possible.
county that's on a 4-inch line that's going to be allowed to be sprinkled, which at first it was not going to be sprinkled, so I'm not sure how that, I'm just trying to make sure I understand sometimes why certain things are carved out of that, if that's the case. Maybe
Well, there are
I
other
don't understand.
technical items that could be provided on a facility to accommodate for either the lack of flow or pressure, which would be in a water case would be a booster pump. So it's possible that the owner could install a booster pump and then provide calculations to, let's say, the water district to ensure that they wouldn't draw the main down so much that it would cause problems for either residents or first responders in the event that something occurred.
So so in an example like that, and I think we've talked a number of times here about downstream effects. If, you know, we have a number of areas out in the county that are served by water lines that decrease in size as they go beyond a certain point. So for example, you may start out in a certain area at a 6-inch water line on one roadway that connects to the next roadway that is out in the county, and the water line automatically goes down a couple of inches, maybe 3 inches. So it goes from a 6 to a 4 or 6 to a 3. And then in another part of that same roadway, it goes down to a 2-inch water line. So the folks at the end of the water line seem to be potentially impacted, and their livability of those individuals who've lived in those homes for quite some time now is detrimentally impacted. So I don't know how, you know, when you say you're bringing it back to the court now, you know, we've asked you to do some research, and we've got a handful of examples here, but not all of the topics that we've covered, and probably that was not apparent when you reached out to these groups to get what we have. You know, it's really difficult to understand those downstream effects, but we know that they're gonna be there. I mean, we had that problem when folks were home with COVID, and you know, in certain parts of the county. So, and you know.
Okay, Squire Tracy?
Well,
Hold on, let Squire Tracy ask his question.
Robert, at our last meeting, I know that buffers and setbacks and things like that were touched on, and you were going to come up with some ideas in regards to each zone. And I think you even referenced there may be one or two that really doesn't quite fit per se. Do you have that information for us?
no, sir, I do not. Because if you start to talk about distance buffering, well, then you can assume you're automatically going to exclude a facility in a given zoning district. So for instance, it's conditional use in the RB zone with a 9,000 square foot lot. If there's a blanket setback requirement of, say, 500 feet from any other structure, well, then you've, by regulation, actually removed that ability to do so. So that, in that case, it might, instead of a setback, it might be buffering. So everything is situational. And so it's difficult to write a regulation that is so broad but yet specific at the same time. And once again, that is why it is identified as a conditional use, so that the Board of Zoning Adjustments in their conditional use permit review can address every application site specifically. So.
Okay, Squire Sebastian.
I did have one more question for our planning director. At the last meeting, I broached, and I think a number of others talked about capping the number that were in our county. And he had indicated that does happen in a variety of other things, like I think he used an example of liquor licenses. So do you have a recommendation on that? Because you did happen to say at the end of that comment, I think it's a good idea. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts were.
So I do not have an actual number. It would be arbitrary just to toss a number out. I think, I'm not familiar with the justification that the state puts on liquor licenses. I don't know if it's population-based or something of that nature. Perhaps the county's ABC administrator could provide me with some insight into that. But, I don't think it would be problematic to have a cap on them, but I don't have an actual number. I would like to see justification from other state agencies as to how they limit things. But I would like to add that when an application is submitted to our office, since it's a conditional use, it goes through a technical review team review before it ever appears before the Board of Zoning Adjustments. So that review committee includes representatives from the electric provider, water, health department, or sewer district / department, the fire department. It goes through it's vetted through all these agencies before it ever gets to the board. And so, for instance, if one of those agencies comes up and says, we just can't serve it. That's not possible. Then we relay that back to the applicant, and there have been cases in which the application was never forwarded onto the board because it couldn't pass through, one of the required elements of the permit. And so either staff was going to recommend denial or the applicant pull back and try again.
Robert, hold on, Sherry, let me ask this. Robert, for briefity, so we can spend all day on this. Could you go back, and here's what I'm gonna ask that you do from the court standpoint. Could you look at buffering in the areas that would need to be buffered? Could you look at setbacks in the areas that, the zonings where it could be appropriate for setbacks along with buffering? As you know, there are different zones that would require that. And also come up with a checklist. Is the water flow going to be appropriate? Is it going to affect the traffic flow and all of that? And make that part of the conditional use, that there is a checkoff sheet on all of these items that would be affected, would fit, and you could check the box that yes, it's okay, yes, it's okay, yes, there's going to need to be buffering here, there's going to need to be setbacks here, and come back to us with this plan, and you could leave the setback number blank, and then the court would fill that out and say that this is what whether it's 350 or 500 feet or whatever, when it's appropriate, this would be the setback. But in other words, we've got because it's a conditional use, you would have the ability to say, yes, these things are appropriate for this facility, or needed to make it appropriate for the facility.
So as it relates to what you said is for a checklist of items, that's already covered through the conditional use permit regulation.
Okay.
That adequate public facilities and services are there to serve the request. So we already addressed that, and that's why it's sent to the technical review committee. So I mean, I could provide that as information to the fiscal court as to who we forward this to, so that that the fiscal court understands, I guess, our process for vetting these applications. As it relates to setbacks and buffering, those are two distinct things. When we looked at 1,000-foot radius buffer around a structure, say for a given application, that's approximately 73 acres, whereas the minimum zoning for that district might have only been 5. So, and Councilor Sparks could assist me with this. It's my understanding through law that you're not allowed to create a regulation that basically prohibits it from ever being allowed in your jurisdiction. And so that's the balance here. How can we write a regulation that's fair to all involved without specifically prohibiting what you just established a regulation for?
So are you saying that you would not have it would not be appropriate for us to have a setback in certain zones?
No, sir. What I'm saying is, let's say that the court decides on a 1,000-foot radius buffer from the proposed structure to any other residential structure. Well, then you've created a 73-acre buffer, which essentially eliminates 98% of all land in the county for ever having a facility. That's where I'm getting at. So just be mindful.
Yeah, I understand, but is there, what we're trying to get at is there a number, or is it all based on acreage? So are we at a point where we shouldn't put in a number, but we should have, based on 10,000 or 1,000 acres, it should be X, based on 50 acres, it should be Y, based on 10 acres, it should be Z? Is that what you're saying? And there shouldn't just be one particular footage recommendation for all setbacks in a certain zone. I think that's where we're getting bogged down here.
Well, that's one way to approach it. You know, topography also plays a role. Let's say that this facility is adjacent to the river and the closest structure is on the other side of the river at 700 feet and we're requiring a 1,000-foot buffer. You know, the question is, well, someone going to traverse across a river to try to, you know, interact with those on the other side. I don't know. There's so many variables involved that this is a difficult task to address every potential situation in the county. And once again, that's why, you know, the court was wise to place it as a conditional use so that the Board of Zoning Adjustments can review its appropriateness for that given location, because every location is going to be different. There's not the same situation in two.
Okay, the court, we need some guidance. We're going to sit here and go, you all can deal with it next year.
Sure.
So give some guidance. Let's try to move forward here.
Well,
What do you want?
So I participated in both Board of Zoning Adjustment meetings, and the comment that came back is the Fiscal Court didn't do a good job of telling us how to do it, you know, and our planning director said we have to leave that up to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So it's become a tennis match now, just having one, something that you know all about, it's coming right back at you because you didn't think of, as you said, X, and you didn't think of Y. And so that has already come back at the court because it didn't think of all those things. And our planning director has just said, there's basically no way on earth we're going to be able to think of those things. So I don't know how we get it out of that volleying back and forth between you didn't think of this, and then we come back and try to think of it, and we're told, and it's going to be pretty hard to think of that. So I'm going to ask this, can we place a moratorium on them to give us time at this point to think through those very things that our planning director has said it will be difficult for us to think through? Because otherwise it's almost like a sieve, and it puts us back in the same situation that we're in right now where things are volleying back to the court because we didn't think of X, Y, and Z, as you said.
Good analogy.
I'm trying to be fair on all sides.
That was great, perfect analogy.
just
Mr.
trying to be
Sparks,
fair.
can the court do a moratorium?
Judge, it's clear that there are members of this court who want to terminate these facilities completely in this court from now on. It's obvious what's going on in this particular matter. If there's a moratorium, number one, you realize we're talking about facilities that are to prevent people from abusing substances in the future. These are treatment facilities like a hospital, like a residential facility, like a clinic, etc. To compare this in any fashion to how much liquor can be sold in a community and whether or not there can be retail sales that the state makes for other substances. Frankly, I heard the words, and I hope everybody else heard the words that were issued on that. I would ask the court to, if you're going to address a residential or clinical treatment facility, to focus on what this actually is. It's a clinic in a residential home where people can go and get away from drugs. It's not people crossing the river. It's not people escaping to do whatever you think they're going to do. This was a really good idea that the court had at one point, and it seems like since then there's just been a reconsideration in some members of the court who had really good ideas at one point and trying to claw it back. So if your question is, yeah, can you claw it back? Yep, you sure can, but it's very much obvious what's being done. And we need these facilities. The governor's mentioned these facilities. This court knows these facilities. I see it every single day in my practice. And it just seems like it's getting volleyed around to avoid facing it in the future. That's what I hear.
Square Mo?
Yes, I kind of have two questions here. The first one is, and I've heard a lot about the, Robert, thanks for being on, about the, you know, the process and how it goes to, and the people who decide what happens with it and stuff. Do you think it would be beneficial for us to have a meeting with the Board of Regulations, or I don't know the correct terminology, what you just called them? You know, if like Squire Sebastian said, if they came back and said, well, the fiscal court's not doing what they're supposed to do you think it would be beneficial to even a couple members to sit down with members of that board to say, you know, who do you want to do what, where, and things like that? I mean, do you think that would be beneficial just so it doesn't keep volleying back and forth?
Well, I don't know.
Is that just Robert?
I've never known members of the court to meet with members of an appointed board to discuss how that board should consider, you know, an application. So I'm not sure, and I don't recall the Board of Zoning Adjustments actually saying that fiscal court didn't know what they were doing. The Board of Zoning Adjustments did direct staff to advise the fiscal court in the future, since this is a brand new regulation, as to whether there are any emergency calls, were there medical runs, any disturbance complaints, things of that nature. So the board, much like the fiscal court, are still, you know, working through this new regulation. And much like any regulation that's newly created, you can fine tune it over time to address things that maybe you didn't foresee when the regulation was created.
Okay.
So I do think it's still a living, you know, document. It can be amended at any time. You know, the zoning ordinance, you know, we amend the zoning ordinance for, you know, new industry that didn't exist when the code was written, much like these Airbnbs. They, you know, when this code was written in 1986, there was no consideration or foresight of someone renting out their home for people for 2 days to go to the Derby. So we created a regulation for it, you know, and so it can be amended over time. So, but as relates to meeting with the board, I guess that's more of a question I'll be directed to counselor as to, you know, how that could be arranged, so that there's not issues with quorums and things of that nature.
No, and that's fine. No, and I appreciate that. And I do think this court really wants to help. It's just we're trying to get it right the first time, you know, and we're getting the calls and things like that. So I personally am not trying to shut this down. We just want to make sure we get it right. You brought up, and that was my second part of my question, enforcement. So, and I'm not talking about the applicants or anybody who's putting in for this, but let's say 5 years from now, you know, we get a bad employee running one of these facilities and the sheriff's department's out there every other day. Do you think it'd be beneficial, excuse me, to put something in there that states, you know, if there's continued problems, or, you know, the sheriffs or the fire having to go out there every other day, that a permit could be pulled? Because, you know, we all know employees.
The BZA did that for the first one.
They did? Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Robert, I'm sorry.
That's already written into the regulation.
Okay.
So when I'm advised that either the permit holder is either in violation of the permit, or there are conditions that change that that could prove non-compliance of the permit in one form or another, then I, as the director, can go to the Board of Zoning Adjustments, advise them of what's occurred, and the board can determine whether or not they want to revoke the permit or not. So that's already in the regulation. So
Okay.
the way that we coordinate, my department coordinates with sheriff's office, fire department, you know, road department, we all work together, we all talk each day, and if something comes up, you know, we get together and we discuss it, and then, you know, your regulation already has that permit can be revoked. It's revocable.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Yes, sir.
Robert, I think this is gonna, as I said, we could go on forever talking about this. We just need to have a culmination. I'm Squire Sebastian and Squire Moore. I'd like to ask that you all be part of an ad hoc committee to meet with Mr. Hewitt, and and Councilor Sparks, and come up with some definitive ways to handle this and move forward that we can bring back to the court. Would you all be willing to do that? I just,
Now,
we're
we
not getting
can-
anywhere right now.
But we can talk to other members of the court and find out if there are thoughts that
Absolutely,
they
yeah,
have.
well,
You-
you're an ad hoc committee, yes, you
Okay.
can, yes.
I just don't want somebody to accuse us of trying to have a fiscal court meeting outside the boundaries of a court meeting, by talking to,
If,
you know what I'm saying?
well, you can't do that. Just remember that those meetings have to comply with the open records requirement. You can't just be making phone calls about what you're gonna do as part of an ad hoc committee.
That's
correct.
So-
So you're gonna, you
Yeah,
two and
I
Robert,
understand that.
we're all gonna sit together, we're gonna try to come up with an idea and come back to the court so we can bring,
But what I'm saying is if a member that's not on this ad hoc committee, a member of the fiscal court calls and says, hey, I've got some thoughts for you to bring forth because I'm not on the ad hoc committee, we can take that phone call, or we can, right?
what do you do
Counselor?
what do you do on the health committee, benefits committee?
No, I can't talk. So I can't take their phone call, but I can take a constituent's?
Well,
I'm just trying
That's
to
cool.
understand.
it has to be an open meeting if there's an ad hoc committee on a given issue and you speak with other members of the board if it constitutes a fully active quorum. If you take other members there, that becomes a meeting and you have to comply with the open records statute. That's correct.
Okay,
That is correct. You get around that problem.
all right, we can bring our thoughts together and, try to move forward in a logical way. So let's do that, guys. And we'll get together and come up with, unless you all want to keep doing this, I'll be happy to let you go ahead and do it
We could start
next
by,
year.
we could start by taking the RR and RB out of it.
Well, if that's a
But
let's
that could be
try
a
to,
recommendation,
yeah,
so.
let's look
And
at
I
that.
would, I would suggest taking ag out.
Well, hold. Let's get that to a point where we get
But anyway,
that to a point, okay?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
But
Thank
if we can't, get information from our other squires, we might as well just do it all together.
That's my point.
Yeah. So,
Well, I
there's
didn't-
no point in
I
that.
ain't sure that,
They can't even call me.
Yeah, there's no point in that meeting. It's not a quorum if,
all right.
Judge,
Part
can
one
we
is
email?
this deviate
Can we just
open records requirement. You know the open records requirement. You know the rules. When you just talk amongst yourselves, you're gonna get in trouble. I've told you before.
Tamber said, why don't we just have a work session on it from the whole fiscal court? If that's what you want to do, I mean, I don't care. Just, God, come on, guys, come on.
When does I know there's so many days have to occur, and it automatically, we're gonna arbitrarily go back. We can't stop what's already started.
That's correct.
So, we can do it at any time, but once something's started, they get the old rules, and we start new rules. So is there a time and place that after, when does it go in effect, what we have right here in front of us right now?
it's already in
Right
effect.
now, it's in
It's already
effect.
in
It's
effect.
already in effect.
Right, okay, just checking.
Okay.
Once it is approved by fiscal court and published in the local newspaper.
Yeah, so my question about the moratorium is, as we're talking about trying to put these new
I understand.
requirements in place, we're gonna have one under certain requirements, another under something else. And I think we're
Yeah.
all trying to move in the same direction to be
Yeah,
helpful.
you're not talking about a moratorium forever, you're just
No.
talking about until we.
A temporary
Exactly.
hold, a temporary hold.
But I mean, I'm not phrasing it appropriately or something today.
All right,
If
let me
I
ask you.
understand correctly, you would like for this to already be done.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. Do you all want to do an ad hoc first, or do you want to
I
do?
don't see the point.
You don't see the point? All right, then we'll
need-
make it a before court work session in the near future. And we'll just have that as an item on it. Okay, we're gonna move on now. The next item on the agenda, I'm sorry, Robert, hey, Robert, thank you.
Thank you for time.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Sparks, too. The next item on the agenda is authorization approval of minutes from our August 30th meeting. Any questions on that? The next item is authorization approval of minutes from our public hearing of September the 1st. Any questions on that? Next item on the agenda is authorization approval of minutes from our regular meeting of September the 1st. Any questions on that? No. Okay, Now, an important thing for our employees, authorization to renew with Humana as the county's provider for health insurance for calendar year 2023. I've got Betty Jo. Betty Jo, are you on the line? We've got Jamie.
Yes,
here.
I'm on.
All right, Betty Jo, you want to lead, and then we've got Jamie here to follow. And actually, Betty Jo, I've got you to renew, approve subsidizing employee health insurance premiums, and authorization to approve a wellness, non-wellness rate. So let's take all three of those at one time, if you would. Betty Jo and Jamie.
Okay. This is to accept Humana's health insurance renewal for proposal for January 1, 2023 through December 2023. Our insurance broker, Jamie Bennett, with the Bean Group, has delivered a great proposal, in my opinion, by lowering the premiums by 3% for next year with the same exact coverage. The proposal was reviewed by the Health and Benefits Committee on August 30th. And the recommendation of the committee is to accept Humana's proposal with a 3% reduction, which will save the county around $27,000 a year, and also will save the employees that has dependent coverage. So this is really great news to hear, considering next year everybody's insurance is going through the roof. So our committee was very pleased with the Bean Group of helping us get this 3% reduction.
Betty, we've got Jamie here. Jamie, would you mind saying something? And first of all, let us say this: thank you. I mean, we are so fortunate to be able to make this announcement today.
I would like to say that I'd love to take all the credit, but I don't get the credit. Your numbers justify a rate decrease. Franklin County remains a shining star in your healthcare costs. If you compare, I don't know if you all remember, we did some benchmarking last year, and you looked at surrounding counties and what they're paying. And someone that I would compare you with, because I think you compete with them somewhat for employees, is the Commonwealth. You're running just a little bit over half the cost of a single plan with a Commonwealth. It's approaching $900 for a comparable plan monthly with the Commonwealth. Also want to thank Squire Mueller and Sherry for their time on the committee, and yours, Judge. We did do some analytics and looked at self-funding. I think it's important that we continue to do that periodically. That's something that we'll continue to look at, but I'm not the one that deserves the credit. We've been very fortunate.
Well, thank you. All right, Betty, what about the wellness, non-wellness rate?
Let me go to that one. Yes, here we go.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry. Hold on. Squire Blackburn has a question. I apologize.
Oh, no, it's okay. Betty, you said it's saving the county around $27,000, and it's saving the employees with dependents. About how much is it saving the employees with dependents?
I have that here actually. For the employee that has the spouse, it's saving $28.24 a month. The employee that has children on their plan, it's saving $26.80. And the employees that have family on their plan, it's saving $36.53 a month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Betty, go ahead with the wellness, non-wellness.
Okay, this is to basically keep we have a non-wellness and a wellness rate. Basically, what that is employees have to participate and go 365 in order to not have to pay anything for their health insurance. If they do not participate and go 365, then they will have to pay $50 a month for their insurance. And we are doing really well on that. A lot of people is really engaging in Go 365.
The committee met and decided to keep it the same for next year. Basically, you need to participate and go through 65 in order to get your health insurance paid at 100%.
Have I got that? Any questions? Any questions on it? Okay, thank you, Betty, thank Jamie.
There's another one, Judge.
Okay, oh, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is authorization to continue subsidizing employee health insurance premium for 2023.
Okay,
The purpose is to lower the monthly premium for employees for dependent coverage. This will help be beneficial for the county in retention and recruitment of employees. In 2021, the Fiscal Court voted to offset the premiums. And currently, the county pays 100% single, an employee plus children, the county pays 65%, an employee plus spouse, the county pays 65%, an employee plus family, the county pays 60%. And it's already included, and the $70,000 is about what we pay a year to subsidize the dependent coverage, and that's already in the budget.
Okay, so you're basically saying the same thing that we did last year?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? All right, does that cover it all, Betty?
Yes, that's it, sir.
Okay, once again, Jamie, I know you're not taking credit, but you're getting credit. You should get credit for it. Thank you. You're a broker, and we appreciate it. You do a fantastic job. Betty, thank you. You've done a lot of work on this. Appreciate your hard work on all of this. All right, let's move to the next item, and actually, there's going to be a switch. I'm going to move item number 8, authorization from the Franklin County Fair Board to host a fall event. I'm going to move that up because they're sitting here, and we'll move that to the next item on the agenda. We have Mr. Osterman here. Mr. Osterman, you're here, and would you introduce your board members as well?
Sure. Good morning, Judge Wells and members of the Fiscal Court. I'm Brian Osterman. I'm president of the Fair Board, and with me today I have Anne Marie Franklin, who is our newly elected vice president, and Patty Cross, who is our treasurer.
Welcome.
I want thank you all giving the opportunity to speak to you today about our fair activities, and on behalf of the Fair Board, I'd like to thank you for your generous sponsorship in 2022 and the many past fairs that we've had. Your dedication to the Franklin County Fair has allowed for exhibitors to showcase their passion and talents through the many livestock shows and motorsports events and all the floor hall exhibits. And it's also gives the citizens of Franklin County and surrounding counties a place to go during a week in the summer for entertainment. With the success we've seen through the 2022 fair, we would like to have the opportunity to have both future spring and fall events. And for the fall of 2022, we would like to have an event. We're planning to have an event featuring a demolition derby, which will be held on November 5th. We plan to begin at 6 p.m. and end no later than 10 p.m. To make sure that sound is down. We're planning on hosting this event along with a variety of children's events, and also plan to have local food vendors, and that will be for entertainment for the whole family and refreshment for the whole family. The event will occupy the motorsports arena, the parking lot right there adjacent to the softball fields, and the Hancock Pavilion. The Fair Board's asking the Fiscal Court to allow us to reserve the motorsports area from Wednesday, November 2nd through Wednesday, November 9th. And we'd also like to reserve the Hancock Building for Friday, November 4th through Sunday, November 6th. We have confirmed all these dates with the Park Director, Charlie Lewis, and he says they are all open. We hope this event, along with potential future events, will give the citizens of Franklin County and surrounding counties a fun and exciting night of entertainment for the whole family that is not during a regular scheduled fair event. Thank you for your time and consideration on this.
Okay.
And I'll entertain any questions you have.
Questions, okay. Questions? The magistrate for that district, is you. Okay, as you know, that there's always concerns about noise and stuff and that. I
Right.
think he's answered that. Do you have any
No,
questions or concerns?
I don't. I mean, what are you all looking, are you doing this just to add to the fair? Or is this a money-driven thing, or what's kind of the thought behind
It's
the
just-
event?
It's just to add to the fair.
Okay.
There's been a lot of people that came to us during the fair, regular fair, and said, boy, we'd like to have a spring event, and like to have a fall event, and just utilize the fairgrounds or the park as much as we can, and so that's what we plan on doing. We've got some really good new board members that are gung-ho about doing different items. So we're talking about a spring horse show, possibly a spring truck and tractor pull. And so you might not make as much money on these events because of that, but and we want to have that just for everybody, the citizens, to enjoy.
So then would the fair board, I guess, do a gate, as far as
Yes.
people coming in and take care of all that?
Yes.
That's all gonna be done with
The fair board will
volunteers
take
and
care
you
of
all?
that.
Okay. No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I like to see things at Lakeview Park. That's kind of what it's there for.
Okay, Brian, I say this, that I think you and Anne Marie and Patty need to be aware that items on our agenda today, we're moving forward with some phase one of park redevelopment, and so you need to be aware of what is going on there and how that would affect or could affect some of your future uses and thoughts with the fair as well as other things. So I know, Patty, you've always come to park meetings, and so Anne Marie, you all need just to be aware that we are moving forward, and thank goodness for that, with phase one of Lakeview Park redevelopment, okay? So there will be some issues coming up in the future. As you plan to move forward, be aware of all of that,
Sure.
okay?
And we'll work with the court, hopefully work it out.
Yeah.
Work it to where we
We
can.
all will work
We can all
together.
work together.
Yeah, you got it, you got it. Anne Marie, anything?
I think I just saw Squire Moore flip over his financial statement that we sent in. That is subject to change. Our fiscal year, I'm stepping on the treasurer's toes, but it ends at the end of October 31st. So we will have a final form to submit to you all. I know you all are looking to review those. So we'll resubmit with updated numbers after our fiscal year. And we have started the 501c3 paperwork. So we will come back to you all with that requested information.
Okay, thanks. Patty?
I have no comment.
Are you okay, Patty? Bless you. Thank you for your service. How many years?
Oh, gosh, 1991.
Golly, good for you, good for you,
The
good
court,
for us.
most
Thank
of the
you.
court members weren't even born, Patty.
Thank you.
I know, and you know.
That was just
and
a wee
the-
little lad.
Yeah, here we go, here
And
we
the
go.
Fair Board generally points out on a regular basis that most of them were not born
See?
either.
There you go.
So,
Thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Okay, no other questions? All right, let's go to the next item. The next item is authorization to purchase an outdoor warning sign from the Federal Signal, sole source provider. Mr. Russell, you're here, thank you. And this is to cover a certain area. I believe Andrew might have a map to kind of show where this is gonna go. Is that right, Tommy? Did you all work that out?
Judge, I had to show Andrew how to do it, so I have no clue what's gonna happen now.
Andrew, do you
If you're
have?
planning on being IT, boss.
Yeah, we know you.
Always have a map,
So we
Judge.
know that you didn't show anybody.
Talk about the number of people not born for something.
All right.
So, if you're looking at that map, and we're going out to the Cracker Barrel area and industrial parks, and as that area is developed out, and I have physically been out there and listened when we test tornado sirens. This was on the very edge of the coverage that we had. Depending on the wind direction, some days you could hear it barely, and some days you couldn't. So, this has been on, go ahead,
Well, where's the closest one to that right now?
Chenault Road Fire
Chenault.
Station.
On the other side.
On the other side, and that is not the same kind of siren that's going in here.
Back down.
This is the biggest siren that we can get. Not to get off track, but when I compared prices, there's very little prices from a difference in price from the biggest siren you can get to the smallest siren you can get. $5,000 maybe between them all, so we might as well get the best one that we can for our money. But this will take care of all the coverage out there in the industrial park, and as all of that area out there is built out, we found a location, and Franklin County School Board owns a piece of property out there, and they had consented to allow that. The contract is pretty much what we did the last time that we put in new sirens. Might be a little bit increase in the price, but not a lot, so.
So where's it gonna go on the map?
No, not by the intersection.
By Cracker Barrel?
No, see, that, now Andrew's got his marker right on it. That's the academy, Franklin County, that their
Yeah.
alternative school out there.
Yep.
So it's gonna go right there. I'd approached a couple other people and didn't get any responses back from them. But Mark Kopp so graciously entertained this offer from us and has agreed to that. Huh?
It's up on the
Yes, sir.
so.
Yes, sir. It sits right up on
Close
top.
to higher.
It is.
Do you have an overview of what it will look like as far as coverage after this is installed?
So that, see that red line right there?
I'm talking about for the other areas. You know, before you'd shown us like.
Oh, yes, but I don't, I'll send that to you all if you want to see that whole map, that whole siren map. Ray's actually got this project and he's off today, so I told him I would come in, but I will send that out, send it to Tamara so she can forward that to you all. And we'll incorporate this new siren in there.
Thank you.
What's the overall, for example, like the age of the current system? Because I know we've recently
We did
changed
10
them.
new ones
Yeah.
back in what, 17 or something, or?
No, it was during this court. We added a few new ones.
I don't remember what the date was, 19, 20?
Something like that, early
We
on
did
in this
10.
court. Yeah.
You know, the lifespan on these sirens is 30 years plus.
Okay.
That, we have 32 active sirens operational now, I think, so,
Wow.
you know, we're doing very well.
And will you go over why people are supposed to be outdoor to hear these?
So-
Can you share that again, just with our public?
And everybody knows that as we test sirens, and I get the phone calls every time that we test, that outdoor warning sirens are thus titled because they're made to be heard outdoors,
Thank you, sir.
not indoors. If you're fortunate enough to live close enough to a siren that you can hear it indoors, it's just the luck of the draw, you know? But they are made to be heard when you are outside. And this is a high traffic area and high volume area, and as, like I say, as it builds out, we need to increase the coverage out there. I sat out there and depending on wind direction, is you can hear it or you can't hear it. So this will take care of all those issues.
The one out there at the fire station, what's its range? Small range?
It's smaller, it's, might be, that range, that's based on the decibel that you can hear, and that goes to about 7,000 feet out in the radius. That 2001, which is the model number, not the siren. There you go, Andrew's got that, there's the old map right there of coverage. Is probably 5,500 or 6,000. It's not a lot difference, but it is a little bit of difference. And that's the outdoor warning system that we have in place today.
So 2 questions, Tommy, if that's okay, Judge. So can we not just put the bigger siren where the other one is and save any money? Would that not reach it?
It won't reach it.
It won't reach it?
No.
Okay. Next thing is the price tag here. No grants or anything like that? No safety grants?
I haven't seen any now.
Boy, it looks kind of quiet at my house, doesn't it?
How many people live out there? So, you know, there's a fine line you go in there
A lot
when we
of
talk
farmers
about,
out there, a lot of
Same.
we
farmers.
talk about
Yeah.
density
A lot of
and
farmers.
coverage.
They know when that storm's coming.
Yeah. I talked to Squire Blackburn, and he said there weren't enough people out there to warrant spending $30,000 on you, so.
Yeah, that's right.
All right,
Yep.
okay.
Any other questions?
Keep moving.
All right, let's move on. All right.
You know better.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next item is second reading of approval of an ordinance amending the operation of the Franklin County Fiscal Court, Chapter 30 Administrative Code, Personnel Administration by adding a section for commercial driver's license, CDL, training expenses, and employment agreement with the Franklin, or as part of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances. Any questions on that? This is the second reading of this one. All right, the next item is authorization to approve a resolution adopting the Franklin County Solid Waste Management Plan. Brittany?
Morning, Court.
Good morning.
Morning. This is a something that has to be adopted every 5 years with the state. It basically is a roadmap of sorts outlining all things that that will be done related to solid waste or looked into related to solid waste within the next 5-year period. You have in front of you, there should be 2 charts. The first one is the action items that were identified for the last 5-year plan update. About two-thirds of those have either been completed or are in some stages of completion. The remainder have either been identified as our priorities had changed, or they were deemed not feasible, or some of them have even been moved over to this next 5-year update. So you'll see the second chart is the update or what we are planning to work on within the next 5 years. There was an action committee that was put together for this. It consisted of a majority of the solid waste task force, and then we had a few other people, local business owners, representative from KSQ. We had a few other people kind of come into this. We met a few times and came up with these items. So these are the things that we are going to make a priority in the next 5 years. They mainly include expanding options for recycling, and even like business service, maybe trying to find a way to put them on our next hauling contract, expansion of programs, working with outside organizations, so working with KSU Extension, groups like that, the Conservation District, groups like that to either bring new programs in or expand on ones we currently offer. A lot of stuff working with the youth in our county, trying to get kids involved, and basically things of that nature. So this is, it's due to the state on October 1st. So this is the only court to really get it in on after I had the public hearing, or the option for public hearing. So this is where we're at, and we'll file this, and this is, like I said, it's like a roadmap.
Okay, any questions for Brittany on this? All right, go ahead, sorry, Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. And I may have missed this, our solid 4-H coordinator. I'm presuming the task force worked with the staff on this. I was outside with our emergency management director, so I probably missed that first part.
Yes,
I apologize.
yes. Our action committee we had about, I think it was about 14 people. The majority of them were from the task force, and then we had a few extras come in.
That's perfect. And we can talk about it afterwards. I don't want to bog it down. I just wanted to make sure that.
I'm down at the road department right now doing our compost giveaway.
Yeah.
So if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Brittany. How's it going down there?
It's actually quite slow. I don't even think we've hit 15 people, but we have given away an entire pallet worth of bags that we had some inmates bag up. So it's good for the first one.
All right, yeah, let's make sure, is Andrew posting that? I haven't seen anything on it.
I've been posting it a little bit. It definitely didn't make its rounds like it did in the spring.
Yeah.
But I'll get on it.
Yeah,
No big
okay,
deal.
okay.
We have plenty to give away.
So right now, since you're on live and people are watching, so give us the what's going on here.
We're down at the road department. Each resident who comes in, it's basically per residential address. So you get 5 bags. They're about 20 to 30 pounds a piece. You can get 5 bags or a mini bucket load right into your truck bed. We're here today till noon, and then we will also be here October 7th and October 21st. the same thing, 8 to noon. And yeah, those are going to be our only other dates for the fall, and then we'll open it back up again next spring.
Okay, all right, make sure that gets publicized, because
Yeah,
Sarah Muller and I both,
and
I
yard
didn't
waste
know
room.
about it.
Hey, Brittany, have you
I
thought
was gonna
about?
say,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we have that much material, have you thought about maybe taking a pallet or two to farmer's market, like on a Saturday morning, to give away?
We have talked about it in the past, before we really got this giveaway up and going. I've been in touch with Kelly Sebastian and Connie Lemley, and we've talked about maybe even having it on like a Tuesday. And I know there's only 2 Tuesday markets left. So I'll touch base with them and see if we can do that. The hardest part is getting it bagged. Because we use the inmates a lot, and Andrew's been really great with having them come down here when they have some free time to take care of this. I was talking to the guys here, and they said that they were here at the farmers markets. I have no problem doing that.
Logistics thing, yeah, it takes.
And the last thing I wanted to mention was we will have Yard Waste Wednesday until the first Wednesday of November. So feel free to keep bringing your yard waste down here.
Okay.
On Wednesdays from 8 to 12.
Okay, make sure all that gets published. Brittany, thank you.
For sure.
Square Booth?
When does the leaf pickup begin?
That's through
That's a John question.
That's John Mitchell.
Oh, okay.
John, you'll get the leaf pickup out probably as soon as you can. We'll make sure that gets posted as well. All right?
Yeah, usually the last week of October is when we start.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good question. All right, anything else? Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you all.
All right, the next 2 items on the agenda, support of a grant funding North Shelby Water and a resolution to support a grant funding for the Frankfurt Plant Board project. Miss Ann, good morning, Miss Ann, welcome.
Good morning, Court. Yes, if everyone remembers, the court created a grant program for our water utilities with the first tranche of our ARPA funds that allowed up to $100,000 grants to each of our water utilities for projects. And that has been such a great program, and these are the last 2 districts to submit a project for that grant program. So far, I can just let you know, US 60, Elkhorn, and Farmdale Water all use their grants or are using their grants for line section repairs, for meter replacements, projects that don't take their funding they have on hand away so that they can't respond to emergencies, but also don't get passed along to their customers in the forms of rate increases. So it's just been a fantastic program. Peaks Mill rehabbed the pump station out at Sulphur Lick. And as you can see today, North Shelby is submitting a program where they're going to extend service to some households that have never had service, as well as rehab or replace the water station out on Flat Creek that other folks who don't have water service depend on for purchasing water. So with that particular project, it's going to be a 3-pronged approach because they're using our grant. They're using their allotment from the second tranche of the Cleaner Water Program through the state, and they're using some of their own funds to be able to accomplish this. So it's a program, project that I know Squire Moore has been championing for a long time, and we're finally going to see that project come to fruition. And then Frankfurt Plant Board's project is to add an additional feed from Taylor Road to Versailles Road along Mill Road, so that will improve service to the folks in those areas. So I'm really pleased with the cooperation and the enthusiasm that the water districts have worked with us, and their cooperation in providing all the documentation that we want to keep on hand on these projects, and it's just worked so well.
And I want to thank you for your great work with this, because it's not easy to administer this from the fact of the processes that all the water districts have to go through. And we know that it's imperative that there is a process, but those processes take time and effort, and they've all worked very hard, and you've done a great job in helping them work through the idiosyncrasies that happen because of all that.
They have worked very hard because we required that those projects be in that water resources portal that the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority maintains, so that we knew that those were eligible projects that had been approved and been through Kentucky Clearinghouse, and all the hoops that they would have had to go through to get funding through Kentucky Infrastructure when it became available. We've made that the criteria for our grant program, and they've risen to the occasion and provided everything we've asked for. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. We want to thank our grants administrator for being on with us today to talk about this. What type of reporting requirements are in place in regard to how they've utilized the funds once they do drawdowns? Because I don't think I saw in the bills that the Farmdale was in there for the full drawdown. So just trying to understand how we are assured that they're making progress toward these in a timely, what they said they will do.
Yes, what we've asked of them is once the court has approved the resolutions for the projects, then I have sent them out an award agreement and a reimbursement, a draw form, and required that they provide copies of invoices and cancel checks to us so that we have the documentation on the work that's been done. And also in that draw form, it also assures us that those invoices have not been presented for payment from any other source. So we have tried to cover every base, and they've been excellent at going along with whatever we've asked them to do. They just really appreciate the assistance.
Yeah. Well, the reason that I asked that is in regard to when we got the initial application in from Farmdale, it had indicated that one of the things, you had mentioned a number of things that all of the water districts that we've provided funding for are going to do. One of the things they said they were going to do is to detect leaks. And in the past, I've sat here and asked the question because, as an example, there is a $3 water loss reduction to detect leaks on everybody's bill. And so we've yet to hear anything from Farmdale about how they're coming along with that, because at that time I had asked about, is there a portion of the $100,000 that could be applied to that so that it's not 100% on the back of the customers. So we still haven't heard anything about that. And of course, it's in bills today.
I can give you an update.
That'd be great. That's great.
I've asked them to work with HMB to form a letter to send to the Public Service Commission, because the Public Service Commission has to okay.
Yep.
And so I don't know where the letter is, but Ann and I have met with Farmdale Water.
Great.
And asked them to do that, and I believe they did that at their last meeting to formalize the request to the Public Service Commission to use those monies for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you following up on that, because that's been hanging out there for a while, and I keep getting asked by, and Squire Booth may, and you may as well, Judge. You may be getting asked about that. So,
okay.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ann.
And several of those water districts are going to use their allocation from that second round of cleaner water funds from the state. They're going to use, they've identified the same project number to continue to make progress on, like we said, line section repairs for water loss issues and meter replacements. So they're continuing the work, several of them, on those same projects, because even though $100,000 is a great thing for us to be able to help them out, it doesn't nearly approach the amount that will be needed to completely, address all those issues. So that they're making progress, and we're helping them in that goal.
Judge, may I ask one other question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So in reviewing the two distinct applications we have here today, North Shelby put quite a bit of detail in there about drinking water service to underserved households and existing water sales stations. So there was quite a bit of information in their project profile. Yet when I look to the second application, it says the proposed water line will provide an additional feed to the east side of Versailles Road and water facilities along Mills Road. Is there any additional information? Because that's it. That's the only description that we have in this.
Go ahead.
You can actually log into the WRIS portal with that project number, and it will show you the mapping and the budget, the breakdown of each one of those projects.
That would be great. Maybe after the meeting, I'll get with you and get some more information about how to do so.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And that'll serve one new commercial customer on the plant board.
I'm
I don't
not
know
sure.
what it is.
It doesn't give hardly any information on here. I just wanted to get a little more, which will be helpful.
I know what you're saying.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, these guys in my district have been having to holler on water for years.
Absolutely.
And they've been needing this just.
So that's why that description is so important to, that we can go out and talk about these things since we're not supposed to talk outside these meetings.
Okay, let's go to the next item. These are appointments. Farmdale Water, Eddie Harrod to replace, God rest his soul, Clifford Tolles. Franklin County Humane Society, Andrea Breek, to replace Leo Haggerty, and we appreciate Leo Haggerty's service. He resigned, said he would stay on until we got someone to fill the spot, so we appreciate Leo Haggerty's work. Squire Tracy.
Judge, thanks. On Ms. Breek's application, it's got, have you previously worked for Franklin County government? She marked yes and put Peaks Mill Water District. I don't know if we need to get a new one. Peaks Mill Water District's not part of, obviously, county government. So do we need to just have her turn in a new one or block that out, or how do you want to handle it?
She might be able to initial her application and just make a change on that. And then
I
it's
can
in the
just
file.
note on there, piecemeal,
Yes.
it's not part of Franklin government.
Yeah, I think so.
I think she was being careful.
Yeah, probably.
She was probably being overcautious.
I'd rather have that than not enough.
Yeah, I can just,
Amen,
I can
yeah.
just put a note in the file.
Yeah. Okay, the next item is authorization to hire a light equipment operator, truck driver, from the road department. John Mitchell.
Yeah, good morning. We finally got some applicants in. We got all this stuff took care of. So we did get 5 applications in. We interviewed 3 of those. And this individual does hold a Class A CDL. So that's good on our part. That really helps. So we can bring him in and go right to work. So I think it's going to work out. This will be a good benefit for us.
Okay, any questions on the hire? All right, thank you, John. That's great. Good for you. The next item is authorization, and I apologize, Mr. Pelosi, that we didn't put you up sooner.
Okay.
Authorization to approve a contract modification with OHM Advisors for geotechnical services at the Franklin County Road Department. Mr. Pelosi, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Judge, thank you. This was something that we talked about during the initial contract stage, that we knew this was going to be a service that had to be added at some point during the design. We were waiting to have an understanding of what the scope of the geotechnical investigation needed to be. We know that on that road department site behind the existing salt barn facility, there's a lot of previously placed fill where we're proposing new vehicle storage facilities. We now have a general location of where the new maintenance facility is going to be. So this geotechnical investigation will give us information on the soil and subsurface conditions so that we can design foundations for the new structures. So that's what this is for.
Okay. Any questions from anybody for Mr. Pelosi? Mr. Pelosi, please come back when we make more progress. We'd love to hear from you, where we're moving.
We'll be here at the next meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. The next item on the agenda is authorization to award a professional service agreement to the Hitchcock Design Group in the amount of $27,000 to assist with the establishment of the Franklin County Sports Commission. Mr. Hewitt?
Judge, I wanted to ask Mr. Pelosi, did you meet with the mechanics and John and them then?
We met with John and Robert Hewitt, and Jeremy Colston was actually in the meeting as well, and we got their feedback, and we resubmitted a revised plan to him, and we're working through that right now.
Good, thank you.
I'm sorry. You all do plan on meeting with the mechanics and stuff as well, though, correct?
Well, right now, we've just been getting their feedback through John Mitchell. We had not scheduled any meetings directly with his staff, but if you all would like for us to meet directly with the
Might be a good idea.
staff.
Yeah, I think Squire Moore and I both would, because obviously I think they probably reached out to him as well, but just to kind of let them know where we're at, or if they do have any ideas, they're in those facilities every day, so.
Right.
I think you should work through John with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, don't go around
Make
John.
sure you work through John and everything is all up front on that, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hewitt, let's go to the sports agreement.
Yes, sir. So, the fiscal court had authorized advertisement for professional services to proceed on with the master plan and the Lakeview Park master plan for the establishment of a sports commission. So, RFP was issued and we had one firm submit, that happened to be Hitchcock Design Group. The park committee did meet with Hitchcock, did an interview and reviewed their team, and the county attorney was able to participate in discussions with the team to identify specific services, i.e. the legal service portion of the project. And so the park committee is in agreement with this submittal and recommends to the fiscal court approval of the contract with Hitchcock Design Group to keep this project moving forward. I'm happy to answer questions.
Robert, would you kind of briefly go through on their processes in moving forward and who they're going to meet with and how, and all of that as part of gathering information from the whole community?
So basically, this is a service directly to the fiscal court in which they are going to research the statutes because the KRS does provide for the creation of a sports commission. So they will do they will discuss with the fiscal court as well as with the county attorney and review the statutes to say to ask in which format does the court want to establish this commission and how are they going to make it up, i.e. the number of appointments, the draft ordinances that need to be adopted, responsibilities of each party. And so ultimately, long story short, the fiscal court will be presented ordinances to consider for the creation of this separate body, as well as the makeup of that body and how many appointees will serve on that. So in a nutshell, that would establish the commission and then identify how that relates to the established city county tourism commission, Robin Antonucci's office, and the roles and responsibilities of all parties.
Okay.
And then once that commission is established, then subsequently appointments by the fiscal court would be presented to fill the role of the commission.
All right. Councilor Sparks?
That's correct, Judge. I had the pleasure of speaking with Eddie Jones, who was the representative indicated on the letters, et cetera, as to his work and what he does there in his home, where they've also established this one down in Paducah. I was concerned about the work that lawyers would be doing as part of this evaluation and recommendation, and Robert described it quite well. They will assist with the consultant in meeting with city, county, other agencies, et cetera, to try to formulate an appropriate matter that, frankly, the city and the county and others can go into in creating the sports authority. This isn't a recommendation for a sports authority. This is the process to get into that for future purposes. So I'd ask the court to consider it. It is capped, I think, at $27,000, I think. So you're looking into it, and they've provided the services that they were going to provide to the court.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, let's move to the next one, Robert. These two items are part of moving forward with phase one or with the redevelopment of Lakeview Park. So Robert, now we're looking at a request for a proposal for design build services at Lakeview Park.
Yes, sir. So this also was presented to the park committee, and it goes in well with the the process of establishing a sports commission. So quickly, design build is an alternative method of procuring both architectural and construction services, but it comes as a single package. This alternative procedure is clearly outlined in KRS, Chapter 67A. The court has typically gone through the traditional procurement procedure of first hiring an architect, secondly hiring a general contractor, thirdly hiring a construction manager. But in this case, the design build provides all those services under a single contract. So it is a means of streamlining and expediting the process while only establishing a single contract procedure through the fiscal court. So once a design build firm, or if a design build firm is approved by the fiscal court, then they can work directly with the newly established sports commission so that all parties are talking and are on the ground at the same time as this project moves forward. So this is the park committee determined that this is the best way to keep this master plan and this community project moving forward, and so that all parties are at the table at the same time.
Okay? Squire Muller?
Judge, I just want to thank you, Squire Tracy, and especially Robert Hewitt for working on this. This is a big deal. You know, this is what we've been talking about for a couple of years, and, you know, I just want the community to know, you know, this isn't going to be another plan sitting on the shelf. And we're committed to our parks, and we're ready to jump into it. So it's exciting. So I just want to thank everybody.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Robert. I think that concludes your time. And Robert, enjoy your vacation and thank you. Oh, yeah, you gotta come back close. Sorry, Robert. Go have a cup of coffee and come back.
It's okay. I'll be here.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Item 19 has been removed. The next item is item 20, authorization to approve the fiscal court's sponsored Halloween event at Lakeview Park on October the 22nd. I believe Squire Sebastian has taken the lead on this. Squire Sebastian?
Yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to provide something to be put in the packet, so.
Yeah, we're expecting
Squire
something
Muller
big.
But that's
said
okay.
that he would get you to do that.
Okay.
So
Throw me under the bus, yeah.
So, as we've done the past few years, this court has tried to demonstrate its commitment to the community and having family-oriented events at our park. And this court's been very supportive of that, so this is just another iteration of a similar events that we've had in the past 3 years out at Lakeview Park. We will get together on October 22nd, which is a Saturday. No UK football games, no K-State home football games, so there's no hiccups with competing events that would draw folks outside of the community. We will again have a movie that will be shown free to families. The Capital City Automotive Club, the car club, is going to be there, and we're going to participate again in a trunk or treat activity with them. So that's going to bring more individuals to have more candy to demonstrate and distribute throughout the community to our families. Sheriff Choir is going to do free ice cream out there from 5:30 to 7:30 that evening. So we're trying every year to bring a little different aspect to it. So you know, making it bigger and better, and some new things that we're trying. And Lambert Moore is Squire Moore is waiting.
You might get with the Owen County football team and see where they buy their candy, because they throw it out by the bucket loads. We drove through Orrington, and we got
For the homecoming football
behind
parade.
the homecoming parade, and there was so much candy, they were sweeping it up and scooping it up with shovels.
The street.
Kids were just carrying all they could carry. They had to be throwing it out in 5-gallon buckets. You never see anything like it.
All
So
right.
I expect that.
So you're gonna reach out and ask them?
Is this going to be called trunk or treat like we had before? Is this
What's the
just something
movie?
different?
Well, we haven't decided on the movie, and you know, there will be different aspects to it. There will be a trunk or treat portion. There will be an ice cream portion. There will be a movie component. I'm still working on potentially one other component to that to get that nailed down before we put a poster together to publicize it all to the community.
Okay, we'll
And I
make
hope
sure
to
we
have that.
get all that.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's why. Well, again, I didn't know I was supposed to have something, but I could have. trying to make sure I share everything that we have confirmed at this point, and there's just one other aspect that I don't have 100% confirmed, so I hate to share it and then have to pull that
Okay,
back.
that's fine, okay.
So 5:30, October 22nd, starts all the activities
All right.
at Lakeview
And
Park.
then a movie?
Yes, sir, that'll be the culmination activity at
And
the end of
candy
the
will
park.
be part of it?
Yes, sir, and ice cream.
And ice cream?
Yes, sir.
Let's make one thing clear. Chris Squire will not be serving the ice cream.
No.
He's sponsoring.
He is sponsoring the ice cream, and that's going to be a local provider, and certainly we want to thank our main sponsor for the event that we've secured at this point, which is Traditional Bank.
Okay.
So, and other sponsors will potentially come to the table, but our headline sponsor is
Yep.
Traditional, and they've been there through every activity so far.
That's
So
awesome.
this
Yep.
activity, so we appreciate their support of Franklin County and our activities at Lakeview Park.
Sure do appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Squire Sebastian.
Thank
The
you.
next item is part of the next 5 items, and
Susan has left the building.
I believe she
It's
did
all right.
intentionally.
Look at Amy
There
sitting
we go,
right there.
Jump on in there.
Amy's like the Cheshire Cat back there.
So this.
The mice are away.
Come on back,
See ya.
Susan. This
We're seeing how
item
she does.
The mice are away.
There she
is
goes.
the official appointment of Amy Quatman to the office of the treasurer, effective October the 1st. And because this is the official appointment, we've limited Amy to a 15-minute speech on the treasurer, what she's learned from the treasurer's, working with the treasurer. But I guess with a saddened heart, I need to say that the next 5 items after that are Miss Susan's last time reporting to the fiscal court, and I know that she's gone out and danced a few dances, and this happened. And you notice that big smile that this is her last one, but to us, we have a saddened face. And this is a special and honorary moment. And Amy, we welcome you as our new treasurer. And would you like to say anything? Seriously.
Sure. I did prepare a little something.
Okay.
Just a thank you.
You gotta step up to the mic. No.
Thank you to all of you. I've just had a very warm welcome so far. I've spent 3 weeks with Susan, and it's going to be no surprise to you all that she's an excellent teacher. And I've just tried to soak up so much knowledge.
She's not to
from
me,
her.
she goes over my head.
So thank you, Susan, for spending this time. I know that that's not easy. It is not easy, the years that you have accumulated, but I really appreciate everything that you've passed on to me. So, and thank you all in advance for being patient with me through this transition. I'm sure that you'll get a lot of, I don't know yet, but I assure you that I will dig in and find the answers and, do the best for you all. So thank you for having me. So I do you want me to go ahead and?
Yes.
for what
Yeah,
I prepared?
you get to go.
Okay.
Please continue.
Your first report.
Yes, first report. So in your treasurer's report, we are starting out with the summary of receipts, expenditures, the changes in the fund balance. Just note, this is for the first 2 months, for July and August. Your last court meeting, August numbers were not finalized. So we wanted to present to you finalized numbers for July and August.
Is this the treasurer's report?
It is.
Yeah, we'll go back to the deferred comp in a moment.
Okay, hang on just a second. So we're under 23?
25.
25, sorry. May I ask you a question, Judge?
Sure.
All right, thank you, Judge. Unfortunately, you'll get a whole lot, you'll get things from me. Everybody's like,
Yeah, I know.
Welcome to Susan's world.
I'm like, no.
all right, so if you'll go to page 3 on the expenses, and it is item 015085571, and you're going to find that under page 3, I gotta get there myself. Under other county buildings, if you go down to that heading, so it's the first item, under other county buildings, county
Yes.
building repairs. There is, $13,300 basically encumbered. So which properties are within this line item, and is that 13,000 and change encumbered for work on a variety of buildings, one facility, and it may not be something that,
And Jeremy may be on maybe.
and Jeremy may be, so.
That's the
That's
pump
that pump
station,
station out there.
the pump
Yeah.
station
That's the-
emergency rate repairs
Yes.
for the sprinklers at the
Okay.
industrial park.
Jeremy's on.
Got
Jeremy,
it.
go ahead.
Thank you.
That's expenses for the pump house repair to
Good, got it.
the pump station. The pump shaft broke and we had to have it replaced.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
that's perfect.
So Amy, see, you've got a lot of backup behind you there.
I know.
And
I did have those notes.
No,
So
did you?
I was
Okay,
ready
there you
for
go.
that one.
Okay,
She's
fantastic.
like, darn it, they didn't let me answer it.
Because it was 207.
We're gonna give you credit. Thank you, Jeremy, but Amy had it all, had it covered.
We
Thank
didn't have
you.
that
All
stuff.
right, that's it?
Yes, sir.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Amy, you have anything else?
Thank you.
You covered-
Just notice, back to this report, so the receipts and expenditures for the first 2 months, we do have some funds that we are operating at a loss. Some of that is due to just timing. Receipts will come at a later time. The revenues are higher if you compare them to last year, but so are the expenses. And some of that is due to the roads project as well as some of the new vehicle purchases. Both of those were budgeted. And I think Susan is going to go over at another point some of the cash transfers to take care of some of these negative balances in the funds.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Tag team, thank you.
All right. Susan, let's go back to item 22, and that's a resolution authorizing the county judge to execute a joinder agreement with the Kentucky Public Employees Deferred Comp.
Now I'm gonna do a John Martin and ask for the next 3 hours. No, I won't, I'll do just a couple minutes. Thank you, court. Thank you, all the courts that I've had. I don't know if you're out there or not, but it's been 6 judges and 3 sheriffs and 3 clerks, and I don't know how many different magistrates, and I still love it, and I love the people that I've been able to serve. I know you all have a very difficult job. You're the guys that vote. I don't vote. So the policies that you set, and we try to present them in a way that people can understand them and the constituents can understand them and appreciate what you do while you're on the hot seat. So just thank you for your service, and it's very important to stay involved. I have definitely not agreed with all of those judges or all of those clerks or all of those sheriffs or the magistrates, but that's not, my job is to execute policy that is decided by the public rep and the public representatives in a fair and transparent manner, and it has lived up to all the challenges that I wanted to live through, and I will live through it. But it's very important to stay involved, even when you don't necessarily agree with some of the people. You don't back out and not become part of things. It's all the more reason to vote and stay a part of things. So just encourage all the citizens to do that, stay involved. Now to the business at hand. And special thanks to Judge Wells, my outgoing judge and my last judge. And any compliment that is received as about teaching is the highest compliment. Thank you. Because I respect teachers as the world's best. So thank you, Judge Wells.
Thank you, Susan Lawrence.
Now, joinder agreement, that's where we are, deferred comp. We participate with Kentucky Deferred Compensation Authority, and they notified us that our joinder agreement needs to be updated. It's something we already have in place, I think, since 2017. It looks like pretty much an identical document. It's just, it'll be a matter of record for updating. So, check mark. there, hopefully.
You mean no changes in it?
No changes. It's just
Okay.
something they require and they wanted us to have on file.
It's a great program.
We get those
Absolutely
things every
great
year, we
program.
have to
Yes.
report to you and report to.
It's, yeah, that's
That's big,
part
all
of,
that
part of our regular business. The next court agenda item is the cash transfers. We do budget every year for the shortfalls in certain funds to be covered by the general fund receipts. So we're executing some of the transfer of cash we do this quarterly, typically quarterly, so that when we present to the state, that they understand that we have sufficient funds budgeted and receipts in our general fund that cover these shortfalls. So for now, the jail fund, the fire fund, the sheriff's fund, and the capital improvements funds are all being supplied with cash from the general fund. And these are budgeted items, so, and we'll have additional ones of these probably as the year goes on. Yes?
Capital improvements transfer in is to cover?
Basically, that's the Humane Society that's being funded through that line item.
All right.
So we're doing $100,000 a month.
Yep.
Through, well, that's how we planned it out, so that's timing out.
Okay, just double checking that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good question. Budget transfers, there is one item that was on the court agenda today for a professional service contract for creating a special district, a new special district. So I talked with the park superintendent, and he said that the park improvements line item was budgeted for a grant that it doesn't look like we're going to be executing, at least in this fiscal year, and that money could provide the budgetary shift for the professional services agreement, if everyone's okay with that. But it was that park trails extension, and I think that's all been put on hold or postponed for now, so we can do the transfer from that line to professional services if that's agreeable to court. Okay, so that's what's being proposed there. There really, one thing I'd like to report as well, just a matter of information. On our debt schedule, we had, I'll do past tense, a debt through Keiko Leasing Trust for Bluegrass Community Action Agency building that was part of a development project that we did through the Economic Development Authority years ago. And the Development Authority administered that debt, so it's the county's debt, but we didn't have any kind of expenditure or receipt associated with it. It was administered through the Development Authority, and they were responsible for getting the money from the Bluegrass Community Action Agency, and then in turn paying the bond payment. And then there was a purchase option at the end of that term. So that has been completed. The Bluegrass Community Action Agency partnership actually paid that off this past week through the Economic Development Authority's assistance, and so that'll be off our debt schedule and for this year, and we'll won't have that one to contend with anymore. Yes.
Will that have any impact on our bond rating? Could that enhance that, or does this have?
Very slightly. It was $68,000.
Yeah, I know it wasn't that much. I just didn't know if it would have any bearing on our bond rating.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it.
All right. Thank you.
That's.
Payment of claims, is that the next to last one?
I like to say I'm more in charge of receipts than I am.
I got you.
But yes, I don't know. Are there any questions on items that were in the court packet?
Before you sit down, thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I hope it has been I hope, because you've been here. When were you hired, Susan?
July 1998.
1998.
Last century.
I was gonna say, she might not want to answer that.
No,
No,
she's retired.
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I
think she-
embrace it. I
Yeah, I'd
embrace
say,
it.
yeah.
I'm just a little kid.
Lambert.
So, you and I have been together from day one. I came in the same time,
Yeah.
virtually the same time, and I'm so proud to have the
You
opportunity.
voted to hire.
Yeah, I did. But you came in the next term after that. But Susan, you are fantastic, and people just need, we see you in the treasurer's role, all the court does, but I see you in a different role. You are truly a humanitarian. You truly care about Franklin County and the people of Franklin County. And from my heart, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I just have to say thank you again. Carmela Benassi, I believe, was on the court as well. And at one time, I think he talked about, what you can accomplish in government and about, the elected officials' roles. But it takes a lot of people.
Yes.
One person may be the face, but there's a lot of people supporting you. And my family has certainly been a huge amount of my support, especially my spouse. And it takes that when you're in service. And people to, share that sacrifice with you. And the family here at Fiscal Court, I mean, the coworkers that I have, I will miss them so much, but they are, you're an end user and an end presenter often, so it's thanks to a lot of other people, too, that make all this work. It really does. It takes a village. It really does. It really does. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Squire Muller, you're running for judge, and there's a 50-50 chance you'll be judge. And I'll tell you this, Susan would come in as a treasurer, and she'd say, Judge, I disagree with you. And I'd say, tell me why. And I truly wanted to hear what her thoughts were. And if you're fortunate enough to be elected judge, Amy will come into you and tell you that she will disagree with you. So my advice is listen. Listen to them, because they know.
Yep, no, I
They
appreciate
really
that.
do know.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think on behalf of the court, Susan, we're gonna miss you. You've done a great job. For us, this is kind of, when you get in as a magistrate, it's kind of uncharted territories. You want to serve the community, but you don't really know what you're in for. And you look at the community through a different lens. And I think you've really helped us along the way. And Amy, we're excited to have you. You stepped up today and you handled yourself very well. So welcome.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you very much.
All right. Sad moment, but happy moment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
In other business, we will be meeting at 4 o'clock on October the 13th to discuss the residential recovery facility. So that will be a 4 o'clock meeting of the fiscal court prior to the regular fiscal court meeting. Is there any other business? Is there any constitutional offices, department reports, or committee updates? Okay, seeing none of those, we will be going into closed session for deliberations on the future acquisition of sale of real property at the end of the voting session. And so at this point in time, we're going to have a 5-minute recess, and at 11:25, everybody be back here promptly, and we will begin the voting session. Thank you. We're in recess. Good morning. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court video teleconference meeting for September the 23rd, 2022, and this is the voting session. We welcome you. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Squire Sebastian.
Here.
Squire Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Muller.
Present.
Squire Tracy.
Here.
Squire Booth.
Present.
Squire Moore.
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. The next item on the agenda is authorization for approval of minutes from our special meeting of August 30th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization for approval of minutes from our public hearing of September the 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization for approval of minutes from our regular meeting of September the 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to renew with Humana as the county's provider for health insurance for calendar year 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
I'm happy to sit on the committee who was able to request a lot of information and boil this down and actually get a savings for our employees and our county, so enthusiastically, yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to approve subsidizing employee health insurance premiums for dependent plans with Humana for the calendar year 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
At a reduced rate form. Yes. The next item is authorization to approve a wellness, non-wellness rate for county employees for the calendar year 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to purchase an outdoor warning siren from the Federal Signal, the sole source provider for compatibility with the current system in the amount of $30,626.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
It's in my district? Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
I'm just thinking about all those bow hunters and farmers out there in my district that don't know storms coming, but I mean, yes.
Judge Wells.
There's other ways that they can find out about that, but anyway, that's another story. Yes.
Fishermen.
The next item is second reading and approval of an ordinance amending the operation of County Fiscal Court, Chapter 30 Administrative Code, Personnel Administration by adding a section for commercial driver's license, CDL, training expenses, and employment agreement of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
The CDLs are hard to come by and valuable right now, so, yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution adopting the Franklin County Solid Waste Management Plan for 2023 through 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
The Solid Waste Management Plan is a guide. It is, there are many different items that are in there as possibilities, and so we'll use this, the county will use this to move forward in the next actually the next 5 years. With that, I vote yes. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of grant funding for the North Shelby Water District project serving residents of Franklin County.
So moved.
Someone second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Switch them.
Okay.
Squire Moore made the motion, Squire Booth seconded.
Okay, I'll swap that out.
Gosh.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Absolutely, yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, and these are monies that have come through the county, to the county, through the state, and these monies are used to help, in this particular case, unserved people on water, and that is fantastic
Yes.
that we can eliminate all of those that we can with these types of monies. And also, the next item will be for underserved in areas that need help as well, so.
These people were blocked by a railroad on one side of them and a creek on the other side. It was just really expensive, and so that's why it took years to get them water.
Yeah, yeah, but the county can be proud that we're using the monies in an appropriate way to help people. And we also need to be thankful that the state came down with these monies for us to use in this way too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, I did vote yes, Frank? Okay, let's move forward now with the authorization to approve a resolution in support of a grant funding for the Frankfurt Plant Board project serving residents of Franklin County.
So moved.
This is another piece of it.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a request from the Franklin County Fair Board to host a fall event featuring a demolition derby utilizing the Hancock Pavilion Motorsports Arena and the lower parking lot at Lakeview Park.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
I am excited that the Fair Board is looking at other events throughout the year to promote our parks. I'm a yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Just for the sake of people that live in that area, it will be ending at 10 o'clock. So I know that there's always those issues. Been on long enough to know there are issues like that, so I vote yes. The next item is authorization to approve the appointment of Eddie Hare to the Farmdale Water District with the term ending May 14th, 2023. Eddie will be replacing the great, fantastic person, God rest his soul, Clifford Thomas.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Mr. Hare will make a phenomenal member of this board, so I'm enthusiastic he stepped forward to do so I vote yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
He'll be a great
He will.
asset to the board, yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. And the next item is authorization to approve appointment of Andrea Breek to the Franklin County Humane Society Board of Directors with a term ending March 10th, 2023, and she will be replacing Leo Haggerty, and we appreciate Leo Haggerty's service on the board.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to hire Anthony Stivers as a light equipment operator, truck driver at the Franklin County Road Department.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a contract modification with OHM Advisors Supplemental Services for geotechnical services at the Franklin County Road Department in the amount of $8,500.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, okay, wait a minute, I think,
Squire Sebastian made the motion.
Tracy.
Tracy seconded.
okay, all right, sorry. Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to award a professional service agreement to Hitchcock Design Groups in the amount of $27,000 to assist with the establishment of a Franklin County Sports Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
No.
Squire Moore?
I'm not sold on this, I'm a no.
Judge Wells?
This is not to approve a sports commission. This is to move forward with setting up and looking at and designing a sports commission. I vote yes. The next item is authorization to approve advertising as a request for proposals, RFP, for design build services for the Lakeview Park Master Plan improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Excited to see these plans, hopefully coming through to a build phase, so yes.
Squire Tracy?
As I've said before, why not us? Yes.
Squire Booth?
No.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes, and as part of this, I advise the court that as we move forward, it's going to take money, and it's important that as we move forward, we don't just move forward without thinking about and really strongly understand where this money's going to come from, because we're looking at large amounts of money moving forward. So I vote yes on this, moving forward with the RFP. The next item, item 20, has been removed from the agenda. The next item, authorization to approve the fiscal court sponsored Halloween event at Lakeview Park on October the 22nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
I'm a yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes, next item is authorization to appoint Amy Quantman as the Franklin County Treasurer effective October the 1st, 2022.
So
Yay, Amy!
Second.
All right, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
I tell you what, I've stepped into some big shoes before. These are really big shoes. So, and I feel like you're up to the task to come along. So I'm excited to see where you're going to take us, and I'm bereft in a lot of ways to see our treasurer go. So I'm a yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Welcome. Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
You were my choice, Amy. Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Just tell you a little bit about Amy. She writes everything down. She's a
Hey,
note-taker.
high five on that. Right there.
Yeah.
That's my girl, I'm telling you.
She is a
Yeah, right, I can't retract my vote?
Now, Amy, welcome. Bless you. Thank you so much. I vote absolutely yes. Thank you. Okay. All right. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the county judge executive to execute a joinder agreement with the Kentucky Public Employees Deferred Compensation Authority for participation in the Kentucky Employees 457 Deferred Compensation Plan and the Kentucky Employees 401K Deferred Compensation Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
I want to say what a great program this is. This is offered to our employees, state employees, county school employees. I joined in 1974, and even though the stock market is down, it is a fantastic plan, and anyone that is considering it needs to talk with someone that has been part of it, and it is a helpful ways to retire when you get to that time. Right, Susan Lawrenson? It is helpful to you. All right, with that, I vote yes. The next item is authorization to approve cash transfers for the fiscal year 2022-2023.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes, next item is authorization to approve the budget transfer for fiscal year 22-23.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes, next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
Yes.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes, next item is payment of claims. Is there a motion offered to deny any payment of any claim? Seeing none, the claims are to be paid. The next item is authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.810 subsection 1, subsection B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency when publicity would be likely to affect the value of the property.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
1. 1. Yes.
Squire Muller.
I lost it
Yes.
there, guys. Sorry.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
I'm speaking
Yes.
out loud.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. All right, we're going to go to closed session. And Timber helped me to be on, I think, Charlie Lewis, Robert Hewitt,